A display of national strength and global diplomacy as India plays host to leaders of the European Union for its 77th Republic Day. Now, the South Asian giant transforming its capital into a parade ground, rolling out military bands and cavalry units, while fighter jets buzzed overhead. Air defense systems, missiles and drones used during the India-Pakistan military standoff last year also on display. European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen were the guests of honour. The two will co-chair the EU-India summit tomorrow, where a landmark free trade agreement is expected to be inked. Both sides have been working on a trade deal for more than a decade, well before US President Donald Trump announced tariffs that pushed India and the EU to expedite efforts last year. And special invitees here. We've got Neha Poonia, who is covering the story for CNA, joining us live from New Delhi now. Neha, what are the key priorities, but also the remaining sticking points as we look to a possible free trade agreement between India and the EU?
Well, both sides say they're very, very close, but last-minute discussions continue. But we've seen how both the EU and India have been trying to have this negotiation. It's been about 2 decades in the making, but there is now an added sense of urgency given the impact of US tariffs for New Delhi and the threat of additional tariffs for the European Union. The biggest priority, really, both sides say, is to just get this done, given how long this has dragged on. From India's perspective, there are concerns about what happens with regard to EU tariffs on steel imports from India. There's also concern around, the bloc's carbon border tax. Reassurances were given to understand are being made to New Delhi on both of those counts. The European Union, many questions about what sort of access European firms will get to the Indian market. The EU has said that India has been a tough trade negotiator. Historically, India has been very, very slow when it comes to signing trade deals, opening up its domestic industries because it's still a developing country. But, we're given to understand that EU firms will get significantly more access to the Indian market than they are currently. One area where New Delhi is reportedly mulling concessions is tariffs on the automobile sector. Reuters reporting that tariffs could be brought down to 40% from the existing 110%, with a promise to bring it down even further to 10% in the coming years. And that would give European car makers access to what is the world's third largest automobile market by sales. And that'll be a huge shot in the arm for these car makers who are looking for markets to diversify, their exports towards, given the sort of trade tensions with Europe. And we've also seen how, Ursula von der Leyen has said that a successful India is something that everyone benefits from. And both sides clearly desperately need a win, given the sort of tensions they've faced with the US. And that's where they seem to be, heading towards as far as this trade pact is concerned.
Yeah, we've also been looking at some pictures of an array of military might on display on Spotlight on Republic Day. What message is New Delhi trying to put forward this year?
The parade is often associated with both military might and India's rich cultural diversity. We saw that diversity on display in this year's parade as well, but the focus, as you say, was obviously on displaying battle readiness. This is an important milestone, the first Republic Day parade since that military conflict with Pakistan in May last year. We saw there was, many references to Operation Sindoor, which is what India called that military operation. There was a tableau featuring terrorist infrastructure that New Delhi claimed to have hit inside Pakistani territory, something Islamabad denied. Many battalions were carrying flags that bore references to Operation Sindoor. The flypast had references to the operation as well. as well as, of course, the display of weapons, missiles, jets that were used in that operation as well, with India trying to signal, experts say, that it is battle ready, and that state of readiness continues despite that, conflict having ended in May last year. Many experts are also saying this is also a message aimed at not just India's neighbors and countries it has ongoing disputes with, but also aimed at delivering a message of self-reliance to its own citizens. Listen in.
We have displayed that basically to convey a message to the world and everybody, and also motivate our own youth, saying that, look, this is the strength of our country and we are capable of defending ourselves when if in the eventualities of any contingencies where war-like contingency.
India very much trying to signal to the world and to the country it was in control of that conflict. Something that's been made worse by US President Donald Trump's constant claims that he brokered peace between New Delhi and Islamabad, something India has repeatedly rejected and something Pakistan has repeatedly validated on the world stage.
All right, thanks for that so much. Neha Poonia reporting live from CNA from New Delhi.